Hello, ladies and gents. If you're not sure what is the best way to connect up your assistant to company training data or any other external information, I'm going to go through results that I got after testing the 3 most common ways. If you're not sure what a knowledge base is used for, it's used to help your assistant have access to company documentation, FAQs, or any databases or products that you want to have the agent to readily at hand extract that information accurately to the caller. In this video, I'm going to go through my testing method, the 3 different KB tools that I used, the result for each round. I did 2 rounds, and then I'll show you the combined results that I got for each one. So the different tools that we can use in Vapi to access external databases is to use a new tool called Query. And I've just called this for now, new Query KB tool. Then we have a function tool that lets us send a HTTP request to an external server like make.com. I've called this one external KB tool. Or you can upload directly into the files section of Vapi and then use that. And I've called this the native internal KB file upload. So how did I test? These 3 are my 3 assistants that I've created. They have specific access to specific tools. So the testing query tool has access to the query tool. The testing internal KB has access to the files within Vapi only. And the testing external query tool has only access to my make.com scenario that contains my setup there. Then I actually used the Vapi's testing suite. I did 2 rounds. In the first round, I called each assistant 10 times. And then I ran through each test manually. But using this test suite setup was amazing because it saved me a lot of time doing this. And these were the parameters here. So before I go into this, it might make sense to show you guys my actual knowledge base. So I had 2 text documents. One of the FAQs was, what are your opening hours? And it has to say Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then Sunday from 11 to 6. It has to say that. And then the other query was about, do you offer gift wrapping? And then should say we offer complimentary gift wrapping and this premium box of $5. So that's the second one I picked from our knowledge base. And then I have a separate document for pricing. So the question that I had is, what is the cost of your tops and dresses? So it has to say $25 to $45. And for dresses, it had to say $45 to $75. If it got any of those questions wrong, I counted that call to be not successful, so it didn't pass. In the test suite, then what I did is I set up my script for my AI agent to call my other AI agent and ask me those 3 questions. And then it has to answer, the rubric was it has to answer exactly like this. And that's how I ran my test. And then what I did is I changed, the only thing I changed in the prompt is the tools and the file setup for each agent. And I'll show you the prompt right now. So this was my trial 1 prompt 1 that I used for round 1. That's what I meant by trial 1. You are a virtual assistant for Teas R Us, whatever. But the main thing is, for one of them, it said you don't have any general knowledge except if defined here or by KB search. So in this particular case, the KB search was the query tool that I set up with this agent. Just to show you quickly before I go into this, if you're interested on my Vapi setup. So here's my three assistants that I had. And then these are my actual tools that I use. So KB search. So that's how it looks like. This is my description. Scroll down, that's the question that I'm sending, and my 2 knowledge bases that I set up, and that's what it's querying from. And I then hook this up to the files that are uploaded into that section. And then the other tool that I had was a search KB. So I just have it set up like that, just run into my make.com with this kind of query. And that's literally all that I have set up for this function here. And the other setup was I had 2 files, the ones that I showed you, I dropped it into here. And then we went into the test, we went to the voice suite, and this is the area where we run my tests. So if you click into each one, you can see how it did. So here's an example of one. And then it said things about the $5, and that's what I was checking whether it did it well. So that's how I ran the test. So this is the pass rate for round 1. I tested the query tool, the internal KB and external KB. Pass rate basically means was it able to answer all three questions correctly and not hallucinate? And you can see these by this table right here. So I'm just going to leave it here for a second. We've got the query tool, the internal KB and external KB. For the course pass loaded questions correct, the internal KB got 2 wrong in 2 calls. So it was actually having trouble with the tops and dresses question. It was saying that the dresses and tops are between $20 and $100, and I couldn't figure out why it was saying this. That's the average call duration, that's the average cost, and if they had any hallucination issues. That's results for round 1 that I did. Now, my first prompt was quite short. It was only 150 words. That's not going to work in production. So I wrote a prompt that was about 700 words. So I thought, let's put the check availability, the book function, and maybe some other function in there, and put in lots of other context and see whether it's able to pick out when to use that tool appropriately still. So that was my main question, whether it was able to do that in a production level environment. So interestingly enough, the pass rate for the query tool and external KB was 100% for each one. So they got 30 questions right. For the internal KB, it did much worse. So only 6 out of the 10 calls were answered properly. And then some of the calls even got 2 questions wrong completely. So the results for round 2, we had only 6 of them right. The total questions, it actually got 6 questions wrong out of the 30. The average call duration was bumped up quite drastically from 40-ish from last time. And the cost also jumped up quite a lot. Bigger prompt, more tokens makes sense. Here's some example call transcripts. This was a successful call, and then it gave the whole thing about the $5 fee. Now, this was using the external KB tool, and using that internal KB, so it was able to answer that first question correctly, but then it really gets stuck on the tops. So here it was like, it says, I am unable to provide specific pricing details for tops and dresses at the moment, and it referred the person to the website. It also said that we do offer premium gift boxes, and those are available for $85, whereas we know that in the KB it was actually $5. So yeah, that was very interesting result there, the final results. So I'm just going to scroll through each one, and the first one that we're going to look at is the calls passed. So if you jump to this section without watching anything else, I did 20 calls per different tool. So the query tool, which is the new update for Vapi, the way I had that set up, it was getting every single question right all the time. The internal KB tool was getting it right 65% of the time on average, and the external KB time was getting also 100% time accurate as well. Just some thoughts on the internal KB, why it's much lower. There were so many recent changes in Vapi, and I have no idea what they're using now. I'm very sure Conical was gone. Maybe they're using Treve in the backend for that. I wasn't setting it up with Treve. That would probably be a 4th thing to test, but I know it's not as easy to set up, so I didn't want to have that in this test. So the internal KB also, I'm thinking, hallucinates a lot more because it grabs big chunks. It used to be 500 tokens each, and I think that bloats the call context. Plus with the prompt, it creates hallucinations. So these query tools, what they allow us to do, an external KB tool, allow us to only specifically grab very detailed and ranked information from our documents. And the total questions that each tool was able to ask was 30, 22 and a half, and 30 respectively. So it seems like both the query and external tool were in lead here, and were matched in a capacity to answer accurately every single time. So just to tell you a little bit more, I did 20 calls to each tool basically. So out of the 20 calls, it was able to have 100% success rate Whether 20 calls was enough to test and whether it was a big enough sample size, I actually don't think so. I honestly just don't have the time to go through and do like 1,000 tests and look through each one. So the average duration per call with these setups for the query tool is 1 minute 33 per call to ask 3 questions, and for the AI to answer 3 questions, the external KB was 34, so a little bit longer. It does make sense because it has to call externally to make the tool call. However, it's still under a second to do that rapid kind of response, which is quite nice. We're using Gemini 2.0, by the way. You can see my video on how to set that up if you want right here. The internal KB was surprisingly, I thought it would be quicker because it doesn't have to use a tool. But it actually turns out it adds, some of the calls were actually about 2 minutes and 13 seconds with this. This is just the average. So it might be up to like 20 seconds longer using the internal KB. And the average cost was probably the biggest difference here with most of these. The average cost per call was 19 cents for the query. For the external was 20. Some of the calls were longer, and that's why I think the cost is here. But the internal KB, some of the calls were up to 27 cents at its like peak. Whereas with these ones, the peak was maybe a couple cents above this, what you see right here. So if I had to choose any of these setups, and we've been in the business for a while now, and we've created a lot of this. And as soon as we started working with the internal knowledge base within Vapi or any other platform, we instantly realized that there was hallucinations and bloating happening to our agent and causing issues. So we actually never have used the native internal KBs for our projects. If you're watching this and you're a beginner, you could do this just for like an MVP, just to show that you can upload documents. But if you want to do a better job, I would pick either the KB search. One is I would pick this one if you cannot be bothered setting up na10 or make.com, because with this new query search tool, you can just throw the documents into Vapi, have specific tools for specific documents, and it searches those documents based off what the user says. So you can even have a specific document for pricing like I did, and just have a tool that looks at pricing. So it then doesn't look through all these documents, it just looks at one specific document. With this search KB, so with the external KB tool, you have to then have set up an na10 make.com or some kind of custom code server where it searches your vector database for the correct answer. However, it's actually just 4 modules in make.com. Even though you have to have make.com set up, it might be easier to set it up because you just throw in all your documentation into one module, and you can anywhere between 50 to 100 pages worth of information into that module without cleaning it up much, and you can make that work. Whereas with a KB search tool, with the query tool, you will have to organize your knowledge base a lot more. You can't just scrape it and throw it in. So you'd have to clean it up a little bit. And I think the best practice is you should clean up your KB anyway. Okay, so I talked quite a lot. If you want to see how to set up the query KB tool or the external KB tool again, and this, or maybe how to run tests in Vapi, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you want to focus on next. Hopefully I've given you enough information so you can decide which tool would be the best for you.